Chapter 7. Outside Hollywood. Not all Hollywood films are made in the United States. Directors sometimes take their actors to a different country because it is important for the story. In the 1950s, there were Hollywood films in cities like Paris or Rome. For example, the 1953 love story Roman Holiday with Gregory Peck and Audrey Hepburn. Other directors are looking for a good place for their science fiction film or horror movie, and they find this place in a different country. Parts of 4 Star Wars films were filmed in Tunisia. The 3 Lord of the Rings movies were made in New Zealand. Some of The Bourne Legacy was filmed in South Korea. And parts of the Twilight Saga, Breaking Dawn, were made in Brazil. Sometimes Hollywood movie companies go to other countries because it is cheaper. Some governments want to bring filmmakers to their country because it gives work to their film industry. These governments often give money to the movie companies when they make films in their countries. Some Hollywood films are now filmed in Canada, or perhaps Australia, Hungary, Germany, or the UK. The US film industry makes about 500 films every year, but it is not the world's biggest filmmaker. India makes more than 1,000 feature films every year, and many of these are made in Bollywood. Bollywood is not a place. It is the name for the film industry in Mumbai, the biggest city in India. In Bollywood films, people speak Hindi. People began to use the name Bollywood in the 1970s, and it comes from 2 different words. These are Bombay, the old name for Mumbai, and Hollywood. Bollywood films are very popular in India and other countries. In 2009, people across the world bought 3.6 million tickets for Bollywood films. In that year, people bought 2.6 million tickets for Hollywood films. Bollywood films are different from Hollywood films because there is always music and singing in them. When a new Bollywood movie comes out, people often buy the music and listen to it at home. In India and other countries, Bollywood film stars are more important than any Hollywood stars. For example, the actor Shah Rukh Khan is in more than 70 Bollywood films, and he is one of the biggest stars in India. Chapter 8. The Oscars. Every year in late February or early March, movie stars come to the Dolby Theatre on Hollywood Boulevard. The women wear beautiful dresses, and the men put on expensive suits. Hundreds of photographers take pictures of them when they walk slowly into the theater. Why are they here? It is time for the Oscar Awards ceremony. The true name of the Oscar ceremony is the Academy Awards ceremony. In the 1920s, a number of important Hollywood people wanted to give awards in the new world of film, and they had their first ceremony in 1929. They gave out 15 statuettes. These were later called Oscars. Now, there are more than 20 Oscars. The most famous Oscars are for the Best Actor and Best Actress, and the Best Picture. But there are other Oscars. For example, for the Best Costumes, and Best Hair and Makeup, too. Katharine Hepburn has the most Best Actress Oscars with 4. And Daniel Day-Lewis has the most Best Actor Oscars with 3. The films with the most Oscars are Ben-Hur, Titanic, and The Lord of the Rings, all with 11 Oscars. The oldest and youngest winners of an Oscar for acting are Christopher Plummer at 82 and Tatum O'Neal at 10. One Oscar is for the Best Foreign Language Film, for films not in English. Italy is the country with the most movies with this Oscar. For example, the film Life is Beautiful won the 1998 Oscar. Other movies with this Oscar are All About My Mother by Spanish director Pedro Almodóvar, Kolya by Czech director Jan Sverek, and Okurabito by Japanese director Takeda Yojiro. When a person wins an Oscar, they come to the front of the theater and take the Oscar statuette. Of course, the winners then need to say something, make a speech. Actress Greer Garson gave the longest speech in 1943 at 5.5 minutes. Now, the winners cannot speak for longer than 45 seconds. The quickest speeches were from actor William Holden in 1954 and director Alfred Hitchcock in 1968. They said 2 words: "Thank you." Chapter 9. Grauman's Chinese Theater. Grauman's Chinese Theater at 6925 Hollywood Boulevard is perhaps the most famous of the old Hollywood places. Its name comes from Sid Grauman, one of its first owners. Grauman opened it in 1927 with the film stars Douglas Fairbanks and Mary Pickford. In 2013, it changed its name to TCL Chinese Theater, but many people use the old name. Visitors to Grauman's always go to the front of the movie theater. There, outside the building, they can see the names and prints of nearly 200 famous people in concrete. They are mostly prints of hands and feet. There are different stories about the first footprint. One is about a star of silent films called Norma Talmadge, a friend of Sid Grauman's. One day in 1927, she stopped her car in front of the theater and she put her foot into some new concrete by accident. This made a footprint. Soon after, Sid Grauman began to ask other stars for their footprints in ceremonies at the theater. Later, there were the prints of stars and directors like Cecil B. DeMille, 1941, John Wayne, 1950, Marilyn Monroe, 1953, Tom Cruise, 1992, Samuel L. Jackson, 2006, and Robert Pattinson and other Twilight actors in 2011. Some prints are a little different. Betty Grable left the print of her famously beautiful legs in 1943, and Whoopi Goldberg did a print of her hair in 1995. There are the 1984 prints of the Disney character Donald Duck and his voice, Clarence Nash, too. Many visitors to Grauman's take photos of the famous sidewalk along Hollywood Boulevard and Vine Street, too. This is called the Hollywood Walk of Fame. There are more than 2,400 stars with people's names along 2.1 kilometers of sidewalk. The stars are for singers, actors, directors, and people from the early days of moving pictures, like Thomas Edison and the Lumiere brothers. And there are stars for animal actors, like Lassie the dog. When a famous person dies, people come to their star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. When Elizabeth Taylor died on the 23rd of March, 2011, people put flowers and photographs on her star. Chapter 10: A Visit to Hollywood. Hollywood is now a nicer place than in the 1970s, and millions of people come here every year. In some streets, visitors can look up and see the famous Hollywood sign, 14 meters tall. This was built in 1923 on Mount Lee, part of the Hollywood Hills. It was a sign for an area of new houses, and at first it said Hollywood Land. But in 1949, it lost land and became Hollywood. Over the years, the sign became very old. So in 1978, a number of film stars gave a lot of money for it. Now, it looks better again. visitors interested in Hollywood stars go to the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. Many actors and directors are here, like Douglas Fairbanks, Cecil B. DeMille, Norma Talmadge, and Rudolph Valentino. There are famous stories about Valentino. After he died on the 23rd of August, 1926, a woman in a black dress visited the cemetery every year on the 23rd of August. She put red flowers on Valentino's name. You can find wonderful photos of old Hollywood at the Lasky DeMille barn. This studio is important because DeMille made the first Hollywood feature film here in 1914. It is across the street from the Hollywood Bowl. There, you can sit and listen to music under the night sky. For families, there is Universal Studios near Hollywood. It has over 4 million visitors every year. Universal is a working film studio, but there are many other things to do and see. When visitors arrive, they sit on a little train and then go through different places from famous films, like Hitchcock's Psycho and Spielberg's War of the Worlds. Often visitors want to see movie stars, but this is not always easy. Many do not live in Hollywood. When they go out, they often arrive in a car with black windows. Perhaps the best times to see them are premieres or the ceremonies for a new star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Chapter 11: Changing Hollywood. In the early 1900s, nobody knew about the quiet village of Hollywood. But in 1910, the first filmmakers arrived, and then the studios opened. By the 1920s, it was more famous for movies than any other place. Soon, when people talked about the American film industry, they said one word: Hollywood. Over 100 years after Hollywood began, its films never stop being popular. In 2011, Hollywood films sold $32.6 billion in movie theater tickets across the world. Hollywood movies are becoming more popular in countries like China, with $2 billion in tickets sold there in that year. But of course, Hollywood has problems too. People do not always watch films at the movie theater, on TV, or on DVD now. Some watch the latest Hollywood films on the internet, and sometimes this is free. This loses Hollywood billions of dollars, some people say, and it is very bad for the movie industry in the years to come. But Hollywood is built on a long and truly wonderful story of famous actors, directors, and film studios, and it is not going to stop anytime soon.